Thank you for coming by Timmeh Geithner. I know that you have been very busy meeting with Wall Street executives and lobbyists. I always have time to meet with you, Mr. President. By the way, the meetings have been very productive. Timmeh, the reason I called you in is that the people are pissed about the bailouts we have been giving the banks. They see these bailouts, yet they also see that unemployment is increasing, foreclosures are increasing, and they don't see the economy improving. This could cause me serious problems in 2012. You are in charge of these programs. Can you explain what is going on? Yes, I know, Mr. President. We had all hoped that the HAM program would stem the foreclosure tide, bolster bank balance sheets, and keep the economy from spinning into a ditch. But the basic premise of the program is sound. Are you completely out of your mind? Defaults on prime mortgages set a record just about every month. We are almost certain to set a record in foreclosures in 2010. Mr. President, the key was always to find a way to allow people to keep making their mortgage payments so that they could keep residing in the homes. But that needs to be balanced against making sure that the banks don't have to take write-downs on their mortgage debt assets. That is why we focused on reducing monthly payments by extending the term of the loan, paying the banks to lower the interest rate, or other similar strategies. But Timmeh, isn't it true that the single best indicator of default is the amount of negative equity in the home? Well, yes, that is true. And if we merely reduce the monthly payment without reducing the amount of negative equity, then it does little to prevent a future default. You agree with that, right? Well, yes, that is true. Okay then, Timmeh, why on earth did you ever think that the HAM strategy would stem the foreclosure tide? Because it seems utterly retarded and destined to fail. Well, the goal was always to limit the program to people that could fundamentally afford their homes. If someone purchased a $400,000 home on a $75,000 salary, then they should lose their home. There needs to be a fundamental realignment of the incomes of people and the homes they live in. Timmeh, I'm a little confused by that. If the home that was sold for $400,000 would now sell for $250,000, a family that makes $75,000 a year could afford that. Why isn't the $250,000 value the fundamental value? Doesn't it make more sense to keep this family in the house that they can fundamentally afford than force them to go through foreclosure? No, Mr. President. We know the fundamental value of the home based on the original purchase price and the amount of the mortgage. The fundamental value is the original purchase price, not what the house is worth now. That is why it is so important to raise house prices. It is the entire focus of our bailout, Mr. President, I mean liquidity support policies toward the big banks. But Timmeh, you would agree that house prices need to be aligned with income? I agree, Mr. President. And you would agree that for a number of years, the relationship between income and house prices exceeded its long-term norm? I agree, Mr. President. So Timmeh, how is it that increasing house prices, rather than allowing them to settle at their current value, is sustainable? Mr. President, the most important thing to keep in mind is who owned houses in the traditional economy, and who will own houses in the new American economy. As the foreclosures clear out, all cash investors will purchase these distressed properties at their current value, and then rent them to the families that are unable to afford them at their fundamental value. These people should not be homeowners anyway, as proven by the fact that they were foreclosed on. They should be renters long-term rather than homeowners. Okay, Timmeh. I think you are saying that it's okay if wealthy real estate investors are able to purchase property at a discount and rent it out, but that a middle-class family that could keep their home, if amount of the mortgage were reduced to the current value of the home, does not deserve to keep it. That's exactly right, Mr. President. It is important that most purchasers of distressed property be wealthy real estate investors paying all cash, because that will help support prices in the non-distressed real estate market at its fundamental value. Timmeh, let me ask you this: does forcing millions of middle-class families into foreclosure and deficiency judgment debt, while simultaneously selling their homes at a steep discount to wealthy real estate investors, have any implications for the distribution of income and increasing inequality in America? Well, Mr. President, we made a decision when you were elected to put off any concerns about income and wealth inequality until your second term. The first priority was always to deal with protecting the banks and their balance sheets so that they would start lending again. Yes, I know, Timmeh. Thank you for reminding me. I'm sure that if things don't work out, the Republican president will appreciate our efforts to protect the banks and will work with the Democrats to reverse the trends toward income and wealth inequality. Well, it is a post-partisan society, Mr. President. You have seen to that. Thank you, Timmeh. And thanks for coming by.